Something quiet but deeply significant is happening inside the royal family. As Prince William steps closer to the day he becomes king, he is making a series of careful, deliberate choices about who will stand beside him in the future, and just as importantly, who will not. There's no dramatic announcement, no official statement, no public declaration. But the more closely you watch, the clearer the pattern becomes. William is quietly building his future monarchy around a new generation of young royals, the loyal, the reliable, the ones who have stayed, while his own brother, Prince Harry, remains firmly on the outside looking in. It's one of the most important and least understood stories in the royal world right now. So today, let me walk you through why the future king appears to be quietly choosing the young royals over his own brother, and what it tells us about the kind of monarch William intends to be. Before we go further, let me be honest with you about something, because this channel cares about the truth. A great deal of what we'll discuss today is drawn from the reporting of royal experts and insiders, not from official palace statements. The palace, as is its way, says very little. So where something is reported rather than confirmed, I'll tell you. And where there are two sides to a story, I'll give you both. Because the truth here is more thoughtful and more human than a simple tale of one brother freezing out another. Let's start with the painful backdrop to all of this, the estrangement between William and Harry. These two men were once as close as brothers can be. They were the boys who walked side by side behind their mother Diana's coffin, bound together by an unimaginable shared grief. For most of their lives, they were a team. But that bond has, by every account, broken down almost completely. According to multiple royal experts, the two brothers have barely spoken since the funeral of Queen Elizabeth in September 2022. The seeds of the rift were planted years earlier, in the difficult dynamic of being the heir and the spare, and they grew through Harry's departure from royal duties in 2020, his move to California, and then the very public series of interviews, the Netflix documentary, and the memoir, fittingly titled Spare, in which Harry laid bare his grievances about his family and his upbringing. And it's important to be fair to Harry here, because his side matters too. When he and Meghan stepped back, they spoke of the unbearable intrusion of the British press and what they felt was a lack of support and protection from within the institution. Harry has spoken movingly and painfully about the trauma of losing his mother and about how he came to resent a royal role he felt he never chose. Whatever you make of how he has handled it, these are real wounds and his pain is genuine. But here is the hard reality. However sympathetic his reasons, the things Harry said and did landed as a profound breach of trust within the family. And trust, for the man who will one day be king, is everything. This is where we begin to understand William's thinking. According to the royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams, William has what he called a ruthless streak, prioritizing loyalty and the crown above almost all else. The Sunday Times royal editor Roya Nikha has observed that William is someone who, in her words, does choose sides, and who remembers when people pick the other one. The picture these experts paint is of a man who, after watching his brother air the family's private business to the world, has concluded that he can no longer fully trust him. One expert summed up the mood bluntly, saying that betrayal, as the old phrase goes, has a long shelf life. From William's point of view, as he prepares to shoulder the responsibility of the entire monarchy, he simply cannot build his future around someone he believes might one day turn around and share it all again. Now, in fairness, not everyone sees this as coldness, and it's only right to give you the other view. The royal expert Hilary Fordwich, for one, rejects the idea that William is being ruthless at all. She describes it instead as strong, admirable leadership, rooted in loyalty and a dedication to duty. In her reading, William is simply a man who is good at setting clear boundaries and sticking to them, drawing a tighter circle to protect the institution he loves. There's real merit to that view. A future king has to think first about the survival and stability of the crown, not about smoothing over a personal quarrel. So depending on which expert you ask, William is either holding a grudge or showing exactly the kind of steel a monarch needs. The truth, as so often, probably sits somewhere in between. But here is the crucial part of the story, the part that turns this from a tale of estrangement into a tale of strategy. Because William isn't just keeping Harry at arm's length. He is actively building an alternative. And he has to, because the monarchy is facing a genuine crisis of numbers. King Charles came to the throne with a long-held vision of a slimmed-down monarchy, a leaner, more modern institution with fewer working royals. It was a sensible idea in principle. But then reality intervened. Harry and Meghan left for America. Prince Andrew was disgraced and stripped of his public roles, and the remaining senior royals, Charles, Anne, Edward, the Gloucesters, the Kents, grew older, with several now well into their 70s and beyond. Royal experts now openly say that the slimmed-down monarchy has become, in effect, too slimmed down. There simply aren't enough working royals left to do the job. As one expert put it, William finds himself at a crossroads, under real pressure to figure out how to strengthen and unite a family battered by scandal and ill health. So what is William's answer to that crisis? This is where the young royals come in. Faced with a shrinking family and an estranged brother he cannot rely on, William is reportedly turning to the next generation and to the loyal relatives who have never wavered. And the clearest example of this is fascinating. According to royal reporting, William has been looking to bring Prince Edward's children, James, the Earl of Wessex and Lady Louise Windsor, more fully into the royal fold. Remember, these are two young people who deliberately grew up without using their royal titles, raised by their parents to live as normally as possible. And yet now, as the future king looks for reliable young blood, they are being talked about as exactly the kind of fresh, grounded, trustworthy figures the monarchy needs. As one royal expert noted, the success of William's whole approach may depend on whether Edward's children and other younger royals are willing and able to step up and capture the public's interest. Think about what that means. The very titles and roles that James and Louise once quietly turned away from may now be gently offered back to them, not as a burden, but as an invitation to help save the family business. William appears to see in them the same qualities he values most: loyalty, humility, a lack of drama, the willingness to serve without seeking the spotlight. In other words, everything he feels his brother walked away from. The contrast could hardly be sharper. Harry left the institution and monetized his royal story from a mansion in California. James and Louise stayed, quietly got on with their education and their ordinary jobs, and asked for nothing. When William looks at who he can build a future on, the answer seems obvious to him. There's a real public appetite for this, too, which makes it smart strategy as well as a matter of trust. Audiences have shown again and again that they're fascinated by the next generation of young royals, by fresh, relatable faces stepping quietly into public life. The royal editor Emily Andrews has described James and Louise together as a potential secret weapon for the family, young blood, capable of reinvigorating the royal brand after years of scandal and division. People warm to their grounded, no-fuss story, the princess who works in a high-vis jacket, the young earl who turns down a title he could easily use. They represent a version of royalty that feels modern and honest, duty without entitlement. For a future king trying to rebuild public affection and trust, that's enormously valuable. So William's interest in elevating them isn't only about filling gaps in the rota. It's about putting forward exactly the kind of young royals the public actually wants to see. The ones who make the institution look humble, hardworking, and real, rather than distant or self-serving. And it isn't only the Edinburgh siblings. William's strategy reaches in two directions at once, toward the present and toward the future. In the present, he leans heavily on the small circle of loyal, hardworking royals who have proven themselves utterly dependable. His aunt, Princess Anne, the tireless workhorse of the family. His uncle and aunt, Edward and Sophie, the steady, scandal-free safe pair of hands. And above all, his wife, Catherine, whom one expert beautifully described as his rock in all things. These are the people William trusts without question, the ones who have never once put themselves above the institution. They are his foundation. Catherine, in particular, deserves a special mention here, because she is far more than a supportive spouse in William's plans. She is, in every real sense, his partner and co-leader in the future he's building. After facing her own cancer with a quiet, dignified courage that moved the entire nation, she has returned to public life with her standing higher than ever, widely seen as one of the monarchy's greatest assets. Experts note that she holds herself to exactly the same high standards William does, sharing his values, his work ethic, and his vision of a more modern, more human crown. Together, William and Catherine form the steady center of everything, the unit around which the whole future of the monarchy is being arranged. And their 3 children sit at the very heart of that unit. When William thinks about who will carry the crown forward, he isn't thinking about a single heir standing alone. He's thinking about a strong, loving, united family at the core, with himself and Catherine at its head, and the next generation growing up secure within it. That family unit is his answer to all the drama and division of recent years. It is stability made visible. And then there is the future, which William guards most carefully of all, because the ultimate young royals he is choosing are, of course, his own 3 children. George, Charlotte, and Louis are being raised with enormous thought and care, prepared gradually and gently for the roles they will one day play, while being protected fiercely from the pressures that damaged previous generations. William, who knows better than anyone what the heir and spare dynamic did to his own brother, is determined that his children will be raised differently, as a team, each one valued, none of them left to drift. In his own children, William sees the real long-term future of the crown. Everything he is building now is, in a sense, for them. And to understand his choices, you have to understand the kind of king William wants to be, because it's genuinely different from his father and grandmother. William has spoken openly about wanting to modernize the monarchy. He once said plainly that change is firmly on his agenda, and that, far from fearing it, he actively embraces it. He imagines a more relatable, more emotionally open, more purpose-driven crown, one that rolls up its sleeves on the issues he cares about, like his global Earthshot Prize for the environment, or mental health, or homelessness. He's a hands-on father who does the school run, who has put his family first during the hardest moments, and who wants the institution to feel less remote and more human. And that vision shapes everything about who he chooses to surround himself with. A modern, focused, drama-free monarchy needs people who fit that mold, who are grounded, sincere, and genuinely useful, and who won't drag the institution into endless controversy. When William looks at the loyal young royals on one hand, and the very public spectacle that has surrounded his brother on the other, it's clear which vision aligns with the future he's trying to build. His choices aren't only about loyalty and trust. They're about the kind of monarchy he believes will survive and thrive in the years to come. So when you put it all together, a clear and deliberate picture emerges. On one side stand the royals William is choosing, his children, the next generation Edinburghs and his loyal inner circle, the young and the dependable, the ones who represent a stable, drama-free future. On the other side stands Harry, the estranged brother, the one William reportedly feels he can no longer trust, kept gently but firmly outside the plan. This summer, as Harry returns to the UK for the Invictus Games and reportedly seeks to mend his relationship with their father, the king, William's focus appears to remain elsewhere, fixed firmly forward, on the people he is building his reign around. It's worth noting that some reports go further, claiming William has privately warned his father that bringing Harry and Meghan back into the fold would be a disaster, even issuing something like an ultimatum. But those particular claims come from unnamed insiders. The palace has not addressed them, so we should treat the most dramatic versions with real caution. What is clear, beyond the gossip, is the direction of William's gaze. It is pointed at the future, and the future he sees is built on the young and the loyal. There's a poignant generational contrast in all of this, too, between the father and the son. King Charles, by most accounts, is playing a softer, more patient game with Harry. He is, after all, a father and reportedly longs to keep some kind of door open to his younger son, even hosting him for a brief reconciliation after a long estrangement, and apparently helping make Harry's family visit possible. A father, perhaps, thinks first of his child. But a future king, it seems, thinks first of the throne. Where Charles reaches out, William holds firm. Where the king sees a son he doesn't want to lose, the Prince of Wales sees a risk he can't afford. It's said this difference has even caused a degree of quiet tension between father and son, the older man longing to heal the family, the younger man determined to protect the institution. And there's something very telling in that. It shows you that William's stance isn't simply about hurt feelings. It's a calculated, deliberate position about the future of the crown, one firm enough that he'll hold it even against the wishes of his own father, the king. Now, I don't want to leave you thinking this is a simple, clean-cut victory for William's approach, because it isn't, and there's an important counterargument that thoughtful royal watchers raise. Freezing Harry out entirely carries a real risk for William, and it's a risk to the very thing he's trying to protect. Both Queen Elizabeth and King Charles, for all their private hurts, generally understood the value of projecting family unity, of keeping the door, however slightly, ajar. A monarchy's deepest appeal has always rested partly on the idea that it is, in the end, one family. And some experts warn that a future king who cannot reconcile with his own brother may find that it quietly undermines his credibility, his ability to embody that unifying ideal. There's a poignant truth in that. It's also worth remembering that the brothers are not opposites in everything. Even now, estranged as they are, both William and Harry continue to champion the same causes close to their hearts, like protecting the environment. The bond is broken, but the shared values haven't entirely vanished, which leaves a small, quiet question hanging over all of this. Is William's choice truly permanent, or simply where things stand for now? Because the honest answer is that nobody knows. Time has a way of softening even the deepest breaches. Grief, fatherhood, and the long perspective of the years can change a person. The two boys who walked behind their mother's coffin may yet, one distant day, find some way back to one another. But that is a hope for the future, not a fact of the present. And in the present, William has made his choice with a quiet, unmistakable clarity. He is pouring his energy, his trust, and his planning into the young royals, his children, his loyal cousins, his steady inner circle, and not into the brother who left. It's worth placing William's choice in the long sweep of royal history, because in truth, the crown has always demanded these hard decisions. This is an institution that, in 1936, watched a king, Edward VIII, give up the throne itself rather than the woman he loved, and the family closed ranks and carried on without him, because the monarchy had to come first. It's an institution where Queen Elizabeth, for all her warmth, had to navigate the difficult positions of her own sister Margaret, and later her son Andrew, always weighing private family feeling against the survival of the crown. Time and again, across the generations, the same hard lesson has repeated itself. When personal loyalty and institutional duty pull in opposite directions, the monarch, in the end, must serve the institution. William grew up steeped in that history. He understands, perhaps in his bones, that the crown is bigger than any one person, including his own brother and including himself. So his quiet decision to build the future around the loyal and the dependable, rather than the estranged, isn't some cold personal vendetta. It's the latest chapter in a very old story, the story of an institution that has always, in the hardest moments, chosen to protect itself. So why is William quietly choosing the young royals over Harry? In the end, it comes down to the hardest lesson of kingship. A monarch cannot build the future on someone he cannot rely on, however much he may once have loved them. William has looked at the shrinking, aging, scandal-bruised family he will one day lead, and he has made a cool, deliberate decision about where to place his bets. He is betting on loyalty over fame, On the steady over the spectacular, on the quiet young royals who stayed over the famous brother who walked away. It may be a lonely choice. It may even one day prove a costly one. But it is, unmistakably, the choice of a man preparing to be king, drawing the map of his reign with a careful hand, and deciding quietly but firmly who belongs on it. That is the real story unfolding behind the headlines. Not a loud feud, but a quiet reckoning. A future king looking down the long road ahead and choosing the people he believes will help him carry the crown safely into the next generation. And for now, at least, that map is being drawn around the young and the loyal, with one famous name still waiting, somewhere out in the cold, to see whether he will ever be invited back in. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this look at William's vision for the future of the monarchy interesting, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think William is right to focus on the young royals, or should he leave the door open for Harry? Until next time, take care.